They know Donald Trump in New Jersey, where this World Cup match had the boos raining down when he walked out with FIFA's president. When Spain was celebrating its victory, you could see Trump sort of lingering on stage. Australian broadcasters also discussing whether he'd stay in the photos.
In 2026, the champions of the world are Spain!
Is now, so they can edit him out of that.
They can edit him out of that. That's real-time commentary, and it happened, as Forbes reported. The FIFA World account posted this shot where, if you look closely, you can see the leader of the free world's right arm getting cropped. Now, Trump's unpopularity abroad is well known, but again, this was a match held, and the boos you hear are inside the United States. His approval stuck in the 30s over the war, as we were covering at the top of the show, the economy, and other failures. Republicans close to the operation say it's time to make the midterms a kind of, quote, hate election. Republicans admit, Axios reports, the midterm forecast is bleak. But if they can just make voters hate Dems more than Republicans, maybe the losses won't be as bad. I want to bring in a special guest. Brian Tyler Cohen is the host of the No Lie podcast, which has billions of views online. He's interviewed all kinds of heavyweights across the Democratic Party, including that rare get in American politics, a recent sit-down with former President Obama.
We've seen the de-evolution of the discourse. How do we come back from a place that we have fallen into?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that the majority of the American people find this behavior deeply troubling. It is true that it gets attention. It's true that it's a distraction.
Cohen is also the author of the new book, The Day After: How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. You can get that right now wherever books are sold. Brian is one of these new voices that we've been listening to. As you know, the world keeps evolving. Welcome back.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, the top story here relates to your book. So reading from a passage, you talk about how before 2024, this duality that Bill Clinton had discussed, strong and wrong, was beating weak and right. You say you could say that demonizing the opposition is bad for the country, but you can't say it's worse than Trump's presidency. The truth is Republicans have been playing the long game, Dems playing the wrong game. Bars, Brian. And you go on to write, why are Dems so far behind with this kind of politics? It works. Look at the two times Dems did play hardball. You point to 96 and 2012, where the campaigns really did diminish their opponents sailing to victory rather than the talk we've heard so often about going high. How does that apply today when we see these reports, everything from abuse of power, revenge indictments, ICE at the polls, to a propaganda campaign that Axios reports would be just about hating Dems?
Well, look, they have run that playbook over and over and over again, and largely it's been successful. I mean, how many elections can you remember, Ari, where Republicans had deferred to this idea of migrant caravans or demonizing gay people or trans people, as was the case in this latest election? There's always some minority to punch down on, always some scapegoat. That's the problem. That's the cause of all of our woes, as opposed to the people who are actually causing a lot of the problems in this country, who in large part are the millionaires and billionaires who benefit from the policies of this administration. It is notable that you have Republicans who continuously run on punching down on these small minorities, but at the same time, the first thing they do is pass tax cuts, for example, that heap benefits onto the wealthiest Americans in this country, as we see income inequality explode. And by the way, Republicans know that this is potent. That's why they run on it. But the problem is, when they get into office, they never actually deliver on any of those things. It's always about finding some small minority to beat down on as the cause of all of our nation's problems.
What are the issues that you think currently work best against Trump?
The issues that currently work best against Trump, well, his blatant corruption and his unwillingness to deliver on the very things that he promised on the campaign trail. Both of those things in concert, I think, tell a really clear story about who this president is working for, which would be bad enough unto itself, but even worse given the fact that this is somebody who came into office on this pretext that he was going to focus on the little guy. It was him who decided to run an America First campaign, and really the only person that stood to benefit from this is not the 350 million people in this country, it's Donald Trump himself. He's the one who's tripled his net worth. He's the one who's encrusting the Oval Office in gold, building himself a monument in the form of a ballroom and maybe a triumphal arch, who's gotten a new airplane out of this that's going to, of course, go to him after he's out of office. And so again, the person who stands to benefit from all of Trump's priorities, as we see costs rise, as we see healthcare gutted, as we see food assistance gutted, as we see gas prices rise, is only one guy. It's Trump.
What do you see in the early primaries, which, of course, are just a smattering, and this conversation about generational change? We follow this now across two elderly presidents, an elderly Supreme Court, Mitch McConnell, mystery about his health status. But I think we'd all be fair to note it's a problem in both parties and across every branch of government. How much of that does that account for some of the energy behind younger Democratic candidates?
I think that's a huge driver of the future of the Democratic Party. I mean, there's no doubt, as you mentioned rightfully, that gerontocracy is a problem in this country. My generation, millennials, have largely been locked out of power forever. And frankly, some of the millennials that are getting into office now are the most popular politicians in America, whether it's Zohran Mamdani in New York, whether it's AOC also in New York, whether it's John Ossoff down in Georgia. This is what happens when you actually make a bridge to the next generation and allow people who are more charismatic, more dynamic, more articulate, more tech savvy to have their spot in the spotlight, have their chance in the spotlight to actually show what they can do. And so I think this should be a blinking red light to existing members of the Democratic caucus that if you stand for the things that you claim to stand for, make way for people who are going to be more effective arbiters, more effective shepherds of that exact message, because the people who are seeing popularity, the people who are able to better relate to the electorate, are those younger people who've grown up in these ecosystems where the vast majority of Americans are already getting their news. Yeah.
And that you could be a great shepherd and still eventually say, it's time to have a shepherd's retirement. Let somebody else out on the hills, Brian, as mentioned, a lot of folks know you online. Folks know you from the Obama interview. To our viewers, we appreciate you coming back. And that book, if you want to learn more about what Brian's saying, is The Day After, How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. You can Google that or get it wherever books are sold.